The Aztecs break a 7-game losing streak against FBS opponents with a big 34-0 shutout win against Cal. Hello, welcome to Aztecs All In. I'm Louis Weiner. Steve Perez with me here as we watch the Aztecs do something that none of us really expected tonight, huh, Steve?
Right, Louis. Hold up your hand if you saw this one coming, right? The first time they beat or shut out an FBS opponent, right, in 50 years?
Right. Not an FBS opponent, but a Power 5.
Power 5 opponent.
Yeah, and that's pretty impressive. And they did it primarily with defense. The defense was just fantastic tonight. 4 sacks, fumble return for a touchdown, interception for a touchdown. And when that interception for a touchdown happened, we both kind of turned to each other going, what are we watching here? Is this really happening?
Well, I think I will channel my Howard Cosell and Chris Berman line about that's why they played the game, right? Heavily favored Cal was. The odds makers had them 2 touchdown favorites, and yet it was the Aztecs that emerged triumphant in this game in front of reported ticket sales of 31,000. And you have a ballpark that's considerably lower, but it was still great to hear the Snapdragon fans in full throat, particularly in that first quarter when the Aztecs defense needed a boost.
Absolutely. And even the coach talked about after the game how the crowd influenced Cal. I mean, they got a couple of, penalties, before the ball was snapped, and that was primarily because of the crowd. And it was a great crowd, the 8,000 students today, and the students really showed up. And once, the game started midway through the first quarter, that's when it really looked like there were a lot of people there. It was nice to see a decent-sized crowd at Snapdragon Stadium, right?
Yeah, and I have 2 other opening notes. First of all, the Aztecs All-In transportation intern gets the win for figuring out how to get us into the stadium correctly without routing us all the way through T1. Now, that's the first one. And second, before the game got underway, number 19, Seth Adams, he looked like the most fired up in front of the students as the football team took the field and then charged in front of the students. He once told me that his high school coach said, "Go where you are celebrated." And it looked like he wanted to return the favor, and that helped fire up the students.
Absolutely. The We Believe Network reported on X during the game that there were 57 committees or people who may join the program at the game tonight that the Aztecs were hosting, and they saw a really good one tonight. And it was the defense again that set the tone. The Aztecs started off not doing much on offense, and then we'll talk more about it in our famous recap. But the Aztecs kept the Bears out of the end zone after a 10-minute drive that was, I think, we all expected to end in some points, and there were 0 points.
Also, another little bit of color that I got, it was between quarters 1 and 2, where the Aztecs teams who won their respective conference championships last year, like that golf, women's tennis, men's tennis, soccer, the women's soccer, women's basketball, volleyball, and softball. So they were out there in between the first and second quarter and waving to the students. The students, you got a kick out of that, and I did as well. And then it was fun watching them all tossing the T-shirts and such into the student section to continue firing up. It was just one of those heartwarming experiences when you're watching a group of students just having a good old time.
Yeah, absolutely. The student section was fantastic. Let's go back now to our episode earlier in the week where I talked about how the defense would deal with Cal's young quarterback, Jared Sangapalatele, and the Aztecs handled him pretty well, Steve. He struggled much of the night. He didn't even complete 50% of his passes. Looking at the stat sheet, 17 of 38 for 208 yards.
They got him to the ground twice and hurried him a bunch of other times and forced him into making some throws that were not very well advised.
Yeah, and in that third quarter, you'll talk more about that, but it looked like maybe Cal was going to try to sort of get back in the game, and that, big touchdown return happened. But back to how the Aztec defense handled the young Cal quarterback. Coach Lewis talked after the game about what his defense's plan was to handle that young quarterback. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to make sure that we took away the layups, right? We stressed a ton about the pre-snap movements that they had and to force them to work through a progression. And that's the mental toughness piece, right? Snap after snap, they tested their opponents, they tested us, and our kids showed tremendous mental toughness to see what was going on, communicate with urgency, take away the gimmies, and it allowed our pass rush to really impact and affect him. And I thought the staff did a tremendous job putting a plan together, disguising some looks, making him think through some things, and we wanted to put him in some positions that he hadn't been in before, and again, like, kind of pressure test some of the things that we knew about him coming into it. And I thought our kids did a really good job executing that plan, again, from the first snap to the very last snap, regardless of who was in. Really neat to see.
Going into the stadium tonight, Lewis, I was talking about a couple of keys to the game that I thought were vital if the Aztecs were going to come out ahead. And also ran into Rich Orenberg before the game, and we're talking to him, and I also brought it up to him because I thought that if the Aztecs could run the football, it would go a long way towards establishing control of the line of scrimmage. The Aztecs did not have any single running back that ran for big yards, but Lucky Sutton had 12 carries for 62 yards. He had that long of 11. That was his first carry of the game, averaged 5.1. Christian Washington, 9 carries, 51 yards, a long of 11, averaged 5.3. But the idea being that the offensive line had a great deal to do with that, because there were certain points in that game when I'm seeing these Aztec ball carriers blast through or just fight for every extra yard. And I'm seeing guys like Christian Jones and Joe Borjan moving people out of the way. And so I asked Coach Lou after the game what his take was on how the Aztecs were able to run the football and what it helped do for the rest of the game.
It's where the game is won, right? And again, it kind of goes to the way that we've revamped the offensive line, the tremendous job that Coach Schmidt has done in coaching and leading and guiding and challenging the boys up front. It speaks to the tremendous work that Lucky's done while he's continued to get better. That has been well documented, and we've talked a ton about. But like, we knew going into this that that's a really good defense, right? Like, they were the number one defense in the ACC coming into this game, and we knew that the yards were going to be hard to come by. But we felt like if we could establish ourselves on base downs against their base structure, that would lead to an advantage as we move through the game, right? Like, kind of like a boxing match where there was going to be some body blows, right? Like, if we could just keep landing those body shots, that eventually, that would progress and the levee would kind of break, and to be able to go on a 13-play drive when, again, there's a tremendous effort in special teams, there's a tremendous effort by the defenses being made, and it's like, again, challenging those guys up front in particular. Hey, we're going to lean on you, because at this point in the game, it's not so much about them over there as the opponent shifted to how can we possess the ball, take time off the clock, get more points, and like mathematically put this game to bed. And to be able to go on, I believe it was a 13-play drive, where the bulk of it, we were leaning on the boys up front and getting hard, dirty yards, and then be able to finish that thing with a tough physical run with two-gap power. Like, we should probably run power more often. It's a good football play.
A couple other notes about this game, Lewis, because this is a matchup that has been going on for quite some time, and this now evens the series, right? 5-5, with the home team winning each game in the history of this series. So that's a pretty remarkable thing. That's one of the things I was kind of scratching my head about, saying, I know the odds makers are looking at statistics and who played what and how well they performed, but there's a stat like that comes out.
So we should have known the Aztecs were going to win this game, right? Only because the history shows that that's what was going to happen, right?
Right, and that was the first time that Cal played in Snapdragon Stadium, and the Aztecs, of course, have been playing there since 2022. And the last time they played, it was Cal that emerged triumphant with that 31-10 win last year. And the last trip that Cal made to San Diego was in 2016. The Aztecs won a thriller in that one, 45-40 at the Q. So One other, let's see if I have some other notes about that. So the Bears, going into this game, had scored 24 points in the first quarter through their first 3 games, right? So remarkable that they got shut out entirely. And they have not allowed, going into this game, any points scored against them in the opening quarter, which pretty much held true this time, but then the Aztecs broke through for all those points in quarters 2, 3, and 4. And remember this, Lewis, right? Cal outscored opponents 30-9 in the fourth quarter of the season. Of course, they got shut out this year.
Yeah, and you remember last year we played Cal up in Berkeley, and they won 45-21. They ran for almost 300 yards against the Aztecs. A completely different game plan today, right? They didn't run very much at all. As a matter of fact, looking at the stat sheet, they rushed 31 times for 65 yards. So that's a little more than 2 yards a carry.
Yeah,
so
we'll find out in the second half recap that I do that they got into a point where they had to move away from the run because they needed to score points in a hurry and didn't in order to their favor. The other wisecrack before we get into our stats and recaps is that I don't think Sagapulotele is going to be named the ACC Rookie of the Week. He had been named going into this game twice in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, well, I agree with you there. Okay, let's get right to it. Our famous stats and recap. Steve, Aztecs get the ball to start the game, and it starts off great. Lucky Sutton for 11 yards, but then the Aztecs go pass, 2 yards to Bostic, 2 yards to Jordan Napier, then an incomplete pass to Napier, and the Aztecs have to punt. So they didn't get much done there on that first possession, but then Cal gets the ball, and holy cow, they moved the ball. They held it for 10 minutes, 19 plays, 75 yards. They were 2 of 3 on fourth down. So you figure, wow, they ended up with some points, right? They did not. They went for it 4th and goal from the 3-yard line. They didn't run it. Incomplete pass in the end zone. Landon Morris cannot hold on. So the Aztecs escape a 10-minute drive, giving up 0 points. And that really led the way for the Aztec defense the rest of the game. Aztecs, tough drive to start next. They start at their own 2. Started well again with a nice Lucky Sutton 13-yard pickup. But on second down, Jaden Denigal rolls to the right and can't get rid of the ball. Loss of 9 on the sack, and they had to punt 2 plays later. Toward the end of the first quarter, Cal gets the ball back. Drive starts back at Cal's 39 due to a penalty, but they couldn't do much with it again. Bryce Phillips on coverage as a long pass to Mark Hamper falls incomplete. He couldn't hold on to it, but Phillips did a nice job forcing that, and that ended the first quarter scoreless. Start of the second quarter, a Jared Beatty roughing the passer penalty gave Cal 1st and 10 at the Aztecs 39, but the drive stalled on 3rd and 5 when Trey White notches his first sack of the season. Then the Aztecs get the ball back and they strike fast thanks to an 80-yard pass from Jaden Denigal to Jordan Napier. Denigal, great pass to Napier, who grabbed it at the 50, and it was a foot race, but he was knocked out of bounds at the 10. After a timeout, great play call. Napier gets the ball this time on a shuffle pass. A great block from Joe Bourjon for a 6-yard touchdown, and the Aztecs are up 7-0. After Cal is forced to punt after a drive that ended with a sack by August Salvati, the Aztecs get back to work. Christian Washington was the star of the Aztecs' next drive. He had an 11-yard reception, an 8-yard run, a 6-yard run, a 4-yard run. Then an offensive pass interference penalty pushed the ball back to the 27. And after 2 more Washington runs of 7 and 3, Gabriel Placencia comes on for a 34-yard field goal, his 15th straight, tied for 4th in the nation at that point, and it is 10-0 San Diego State. Cal gets the ball back, and it's a crazy drive. The quarterback got hot, hitting passes of 11 and 33 yards, but the Aztec defense stiffened up on 2nd and 9 from the 16. Bryce Phillips breaks up a pass in the end zone. Then after 2 false start penalties from Cal, thanks to the San Diego State Snapdragon Stadium crowd, yep, the crowd was really getting into it, Cal had a 3rd and 19 from the Aztecs 26, but Sangapulotele throws one in the end zone, but no receiver within sight. Dwayne McDougle had it in his mitts. He dropped an easy pick in the end zone, but no harm, no foul, and Cal's kicker missed a 34-yard field goal. But the Aztecs get the ball one last time before half to try to put some points on the board, and they do. The Aztecs bleed the clock and get into field goal range, and that's thanks to a 19-yard completion to Jacob Bostic, and Gabe Placencia on again, this time for a 40-yard field goal, his 16th straight, now tied for third in the nation for consecutive field goals, and the Aztecs, Steve, go into halftime up 13-10.
All right, Lewis, we'll pick up the third quarter with Cal's offense struggling. On their first drive, holding penalty pushes them back 1st and 20. JKS, under pressure from a relentless Aztecs D-line, narrowly avoids a sack, but can't convert on the throw. It could have been a grounding, but he was out of the pocket. 3rd and 20, Sangapulotele has no chance. Cal punts. The Aztecs take over at the Cal 42. Prime field possession, 14-12 left in the quarter. Aztecs offense faces their own holding call, but the defenders' slow rise after tackling Lucky Sutton. It shows Cal's defense feeling the heat. Sutton powered through for 9 yards. But then a QB draw on 3rd and 12 by Denigal falls short. Enter Hunter Green with a textbook punt, though. It pins Cal inside their own 5. Fielded by Chris Johnson. Green struts off. He's cupping his ears, but the crowd had already done their cheering. Cal's next possession, 11:41, starts at their own 4. Dangerous spot on the field. 24-yard pass, though, to Grizel. A 7-yard run by Kendrick Raphael hints at life, but disaster strikes. Raphael fumbles. 26, Dwayne McDougle scoops it up, sprints 35 yards with an Aztec convoy for a touchdown, and just like that, San Diego State leads 20-0, 11:03 left in the third. Cal's woes continued on their next drive from their own 25. Drop pass, incomplete, short gain. That leads to a quick 3-and-out. Aztecs offense controlling the line. Take over at their 30. Sutton grinds for 2. There's a tip pass that's nearly turned into a pick, and the Aztecs have to punt. Green's boot sets Cal back at their 27. Cal is desperate for points and has to start winging it. They hit a quick pass to the 42 on a completion. JKS, though, faces heat again. McDougle nearly snags himself an interception. A deep shot falls incomplete. 3rd and 1, Cal converts, but then the drive implodes when Chris Johnson picks off a terrible throw by JKS at the 3-yard line, and Johnson, with another Aztec parade, houses it for a 97-yard pick 6. It's the 5th longest in Aztec history. 5:59 left in the third. It's 27-0. Snapdragon Stadium feels electric, Lewis. Cal's next drive, though, more misery starting at the 25. JKS intercepted again, this time by Dale Sean Staley. Reads the pass perfectly. Aztecs defense, a brick wall. Cal can't breathe. Aztecs offense takes over at their 41. 5:03 left in the third. No rush, just control. Lucky Sutton, Washington churn out the yards, though a holding call stings on the drive. There's a bubble screen to Napier, gains a few. Green has to punt again, pinning Cal at their 6. Cal manages to convert on 3rd and 5, but then there's a targeting flag on a play with Bryce Phillips sparking a trip to the replay monitor. It shows it was a shoulder hit. He stays in the game. JKS scrambles on a subsequent play, but a pass breakup by Mr. Williams ends another Bears drive. As the third quarter winds down, Aztecs lead 27-0, and the Aztec student section looks like it's starting to empty out. Aztecs open the fourth with Napier hauling in a first down catch at the 43. Washington bullies for 5, then another. Sets up a 3rd and 4 conversion to Napier. Then there's a blast up the middle by Washington, gets him to the Cal 36. Napier's jet sweep and a sideline toss keeps the chains moving. Then a free play. Cal jumps offside. Napier catches a 22-yard strike to the Cal 3 by Denigal.
And then Lucky Sutton will waltz in untouched for the score. A 12-play, 76-yard, 6-minute, 8-second drive. It makes the score 34-0 with 10:25 left. Game over. There's clock left, but this one is in the refrigerator. Cal now has Devin Brown at QB. They couldn't muster much. Augie Salvatelli introduces Brown to the turf on third down. Aztecs defense continues standing tall. Burt Emanuel Jr. takes over at QB for the Aztecs, keeps it on the ground to bleed the clock. Cal's final drive from their 30 leaned on runs. They convert twice, but with 2 minutes left, Ryan Henderson seals the shutout with a sack on 4th and 3. Final score again, Aztecs 34, Cal nothing. Aztecs defense a juggernaut. Just an incredible performance by the Aztecs defense. Aztecs offense does a great job on their side of the ball. Cal really never gets on track. San Diego State owns this one.
Steve, the best way to describe Jaden Denigle's performance tonight was efficient, and that's what Coach Sean Lewis talked about after the game. He finished 15 of 18 for 189 yards, 1 touchdown. His longest pass was 80 yards. He had another 19-yard completion, so that's 99 of the 89 yards right there. So the rest of the way were pretty passes that were designed to be shorter in nature, and Coach Lewis talked about that after the game.
Yeah, wanted him to be efficient, right? Wanted him to start fast. Wanted to help him in that process. Felt like I hadn't done a good enough job of that. You know, like a shooter can get in a rhythm by seeing the ball go in the hole, right? So wanted to create some easy completions for him early on. We knew that we were going to get challenged with man-to-man coverage. It's what they love to do, and obviously what we did against Washington State and the way that we were challenged, you know, like you put some things down on tape, it's going to get pressure tested, right? And so to have the long one early, I think really kind of changed some things. We saw a lot more two-high zone structure after that, which allowed us to kind of simplify some things or be able to dictate some things. But again, like good decision-making, you know, and I think what goes unnoticed on a lot of those completions is the work that's getting done on the edge by the outside receivers blocking. You know, we were able to use some of our perimeter RPO game as relief against some of their field pressure in particular and spit the ball out for, you know, whatever analytics says is, you know, a 1 yard in the air, you know, completion. But then because of the tremendous effort and the pride that our guys took in blocking, which was really poor the previous time that we went out, like they did a great job with it today, the outside receivers in particular, and that was a sense of pride that, again, like we wanted to test and we wanted to challenge, and they did a great job with it. And then Jordan did a great job run after catch on a lot of those, you know, instances, you know. So he was efficient, great decision-making. And again, his process has been pure, you know, as we've gone through, and he's been working really, really diligently. I think it's a testament to the amount of time that he spent in the building during the bye week. He made the choice to invest that time so that he could play cleaner, he could play more efficient, and we could play on schedule more often like we did tonight.
So in addition to being able to control the line of scrimmage and run the football effectively, there's that whole idea of winning the middle 8. The Aztecs were successful winning that. They scored 3 points in that middle 8 section, and they held Cal scoreless. Another thing that helps contribute to victories is those big plays. I think you call them chonk plays. Boy, did the Aztecs have their share. And we had Jordan Napier in the interview room and Dwayne McDougle, who had, of course, we talked to you about the great scoop and score that he had. And I wanted to ask them, and also Coach Lewis. So here's a little compendium of all their comments on all of those big plays that the Aztecs were able to come up with to help lead them to victory.
With me coming in as a safety, you know, seeing the picks, fumble recoveries, all of that, like it just turns me up, you know. So with them doing that and then me being turned up, me going out there on offense, it's really like, it's really unstoppable. Like I'm getting turned from the defense, then going out there on offense and playing my game. So it's really like, can't do nothing to stop it for real.
First play of the game, kick return. Me and our guy Max, number 22, we had a double team, and the guy, number 2, he was just not physical. So we said, this our game. And when I went in on defense, first drive, I almost had 2 punch-outs. And then I overemphasized, hey, we got to go. We got to get the ball out. We got to get the ball out. Then Delshawn came in. I was running to the ball, running back try to run them over. Dale not going for it. Fumble, scoop and score, baby. Let's do it.
Chris went 6, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pick 6.
Pick 6. Dale got a pick. It's just good plays.
I dropped 2.
Good football.
I'll own it next week though, for sure.
Oh yeah, they know what. They know what they gotta go do.
We still gotta go hunt. We gotta go hunt still. If we see opposite color, we gotta go hunt. That's all we know. Hunt.
It's like they picked it. They picked the ball up or whatever, but they still on defense. You know, they still hunting out there. That mindset don't switch. To be honest, I shouldn't have gotten it end zone. You know, I shouldn't be getting caught like that. But, you know, it just feel good. You know, for everything that you've been preparing for, been working for it to finally show up on tape and in the game in the big stage. You know, it feels good just to know what you're working for is coming up and coming into play.
It was awesome, right? I mean, it's really cool. We've been talking about it for a long time, right? Like the potential that this team has had, and to see them close that gap. It's a tremendous job by our coaches. More importantly, it's a tremendous job by the kids, right? Of, again, responding appropriately, really kind of putting the blinders on, insulating themselves within our football world and tuning out the external noise. And now all you guys are going to write all this great stuff about how awesome we are, and I'm going to have to insulate them from that so they don't listen to, you know, the proverbial rat poison and everything, right? But, you know, for them to, man, just commit to our process, recommit to the process, right? And detach from the results, and to see them, again, like before we came out of the locker room, it was like, hey, it's 0-0. Like, it's 0-0. Don't look at the scoreboard. Go play each play for what it is. Like the kids saying that, you're like, we got them. We're building something special, and we got them. And then for them to not only say it and to think it, but more importantly, go do it and to finish it, we got them. Really cool.
So, Steve, time of possession was pretty even. 30 minutes, 18 seconds for the Aztecs, 29-42 for Cal. That's pretty much even, almost exact. Aztecs not very successful, though, on third down. They were only 3 of 10, and it wasn't until late in the game they did 2 in a row. But up to that point, they were 1 of 6. So that's something that they can work on in future games. So we'll see if the offense spreads it out a little bit more, maybe a little more seeing Dana go downfield, and see if they try to extend plays that way next week against Northern Illinois.
And to give you the stat line on Jordan Napier, because he was in the interview room for a reason, they targeted him 10 times. He caught 9 balls, 154 yards, which was his best performance as an Aztec. Yards after catch, 92. He had the touchdown and that long of 80. So a great job by a fine young man. And the leading tackler for the Aztecs, on Chambliss, he had 8 unassisted. The Aztecs defense won all. So you have to tip your hat to them for playing such a game.
Yeah.
Being able to hold Cal scoreless.
Yeah, Trey White got his first sack of the season, and I mentioned to Jordan Napier during the post game. I asked him, he ran for a touchdown. If he likes running the ball as much as catching the ball, he goes, he just wants the ball in his hand. So I think Sean Lewis is going to do a pretty good job about making sure that happens all season long.
Right. Sean Lewis had some great things to say about Jordan. If we figure out a way to fit those in here somehow, I'll do my best.
Maybe when it's not 12:30 in the morning.
Right. But in the meantime, I guess it's time for us to say goodbye, with the Aztecs emerging triumphant against Cal, 34-0. And remember, follow us on the X for our takes on whatever's going on in Aztec land. That would be Aztecs All In at Aztecs_all_in on the X, of course. And then you can drop us a note at Gmail, and our address there is aztecsallin@gmail.com. So for Louis Weiner, this is Steve Perez saying good night on a very good night for the Aztecs. They have emerged triumphant. They beat Cal 34-0. How about that?